I'm Angelo Moratti. This is 10 Minutes to Inspire. Nick, welcome to Tech.Emotion's podcast, 10 Minutes to Inspire. It is great to have you here. Most of all, it's great to have you here in Italy. And seeing your history with understanding brands and having a great view on aesthetics and of beauty, everything to do with Italy, actually. How would you define your ties with this country?
I am the only place that I'm happier. Well, the only place that comes close to the feeling of going home is the feeling I have of coming to Italy. I think that there is something in the food, in the community, in the clothes, in the people, in the culture that I always find very inspiring. It doesn't matter what I'm here for, if I'm here for work, if I'm here with my family, if I'm here for pleasure. And I walk all the time in Italy. I love whether it's Milan or other cities in Italy. I find you see so much beauty, you see so many interesting people. And, I've been to Milan maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 3 years. Every time I come, it feels like it's having more of a moment. It's beautiful to see.
Well, you come from on one side, the tech world, but on the other side also, you're an expert on brands. So on one side, you have to have IQ, and on the other side, you have to have EQ. So how is it to have these two big components of reasoning to be part of your life? You have to be very rational on one side when you invest in placing the right amount of money in the investment, and maybe you're passionate, but you got to be prudent. And on the other side, developing enough passion to invest in something where you're going to give all your heart into it. How do you live with this coexistence?
For me, the question is always, why am I passionate about something? Am I passionate about something because of a personal love of a product? If that's the case, it's probably not an investment. If I'm passionate about something because I feel that it follows what I've learned around pattern recognition, around product market fit, reason for being, founder excellence, to your point, the most important thing, putting my own background to the side, is that the companies that we back have EQ and IQ, that they marry great creativity with true commercial operations. And it's very hard to find that. Sometimes you find one half and then you invest with the goal of finding another. But that's tricky. You have to really believe that who you're investing in has the ability to bring on a thought partner that they trust and they work well with. It's not the easiest thing to screen for in my experience, but it's critical. The ideal is that it exists before you invest. And then if it doesn't, you got to make sure that you try and help find it fast. Because if you don't find it, generally speaking, the businesses don't work.
Which of the old fashion brands would you define magic? And you can go to see also the Italian landscape.
For me, magic is, can you close your eyes and imagine that brand's manifestation in home, in a restaurant, in a bookstore, at an event, at a hotel? And so, I think all the Italians brands at least do that very, very well. For me right now, the strongest feels like Prada, insofar as there's a real intellectual point of view to the design and the brand and the ethos. But they figured out a way, again, with great merchandising and great commerciality, to build that out in a way that keeps the sort of niche core, but allows it to be really global philosophically. And you know what a Prada space is going to look like before you open your eyes. You can imagine what Prada home would be if there isn't a Prada hotel, but if there was, I'm sure you and I could render something that looks like it. And that's always, I think, the test with great later stage brands. Early stage brands, they're so young, you really can't imagine that. But if you're investing in a company that's 5, 10 years old, $100 million plus, you really have to believe that that dream and that fantasy and that world can coexist in multiple different arenas.
And which of the new brands, the ones that are 5, 10 years old, would you define magic? The ones maybe that you've also invested?
I think the Row is pretty magical. I think that they have a sense of patience and thoughtfulness and focus to their craft and their brand building that is really, really hard to find today in a world that everybody believes in speed, 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 and scale, 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 and size, size, size. So I have a lot of respect for how they've done sort of the impossible, which is to build a true luxury brand that was born out of the United States. I think that Skims has done a phenomenal job in being really a global company built around solutionware. Then there are a lot of companies that are not in my portfolio that I respect immensely. I think what Sol de Janeiro has done in beauty and sort of reevaluating the body care space is super interesting. I'm a huge fan of Aritzia. When I look in the US market, to me, Aritzia tend to be the best merchants. You can walk into an Aritzia store anywhere and you can bring together an outfit. You can pull together a look in a way that's easy and stylish and fresh and current, and the price point is super sharp. And then there's some things in the activewear space that I am, active historically was a category that you thought was hard to disrupt because Nike and Adidas, and to a lesser extent, Under Armour had so much power. They had so much scale. The marketing dollars were so big. The innovation cycle was so great. But like all things, other people innovate too. So I think what the team at On Running has done is exceptional. I think they've built a phenomenal product in their sneaker, and I think now they're moving into lifestyle. I think what Vuori has done is really impressive. I think they looked at a little bit of where Lululemon struggled from a, menswear perspective, and really understood who their guy was and the fact that he was underserved, and really, with a lot of precision, built an exceptionally big company. So those are some of the businesses today that inspire me, and they're so different from one another, right? I mean, some are beauty, some are apparel, some are fashion, some are basics. They spread the gamut, but I think all of them share in common a really unique approach to commercialization, a real reason for being, and to a certain extent, breaking boundaries in categories that people thought were really hard to break.
Has there ever been a time whereby you have invested in a company that you truly believed in and you were passionate and you really had high hopes, and it was an incredible delusion? I'll give you, for example, an example to me, Allbirds.
I see you wearing them now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really had a lot of hopes for it. I still have hopes that they're going to rebound, but in essence, they really screwed up. And has it ever happened to you?
A lot. If you're in the business of venture investing, it's actually not, you can't worry about the losses. You have to worry about finding one or two magnificent outcomes. And so the 50x, the 100x, the 150, the 500x, those make up for, 25, 50% loss ratios. So, we get stuff wrong all the time. I think that's healthy, actually, and part of the business that we work in a way. If it doesn't happen, we're not taking enough risk. We're not going early enough. Most of the time when we miss, it's because we get the team dynamic wrong, or ultimately the brand's reason to exist and the ties that it has to a consumer are not deep enough. So it's quite easy to get to $25, $50 million of revenue, you know that. And it's much harder to go a step higher than that. And, finding an exit for a $25 to $50 million break-even business is hard. People want exceptional stars. So most of the time they just don't they don't become big enough. They don't become generationally defining. They're not malleable. They're not meant to be international. They don't have the qualities that a great brand requires. So I always say to our team, like, concentrate your time on making sure that everything you invest in, you think has the potential to be an outlier. And, carry that through with every decision you make. But recognize that you're going to get many more wrong than you are right. And when you realize it, acknowledge it, learn from it, and move on from it from a capital basis. One of the things that I think is most important when you analyze a venture capital firm or any investor is, how do they think about reserves? Are they reserving their dollars for the best businesses that are the best outcome? Or are they sort of sprinkling it across every investment that they make? Because, time is a valuable thing. Time, data, and performance are all very valuable things. And you have the chance to reserve and hold back meaningful capital to really provide capital to the businesses that you think are the most exceptional within a given portfolio.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I think we're returning as much capital as we can be, first and foremost. I say that really not kidding. I think every LP that has been a long-term investor in venture capital or private equity needs distributions to funnel the continuation of their program. So I think that's one. That's our fiduciary and that's our responsibility. I don't think we're much bigger. I think we know what the right size is to take advantage of early and late stage. I think that for our later stage businesses that require more capital, we can do co-investment. But the bigger the fund, the harder it is to return that capital, the harder it is to create true alpha. So I don't think we're any bigger. And I'm not sure the team is any bigger, maybe by a few people. But I like the sense of tightness and community that we have within our team. I like the sense that we can create a unified approach to each investment. We have one person that leads, but the decision is actually amongst the 4 or 5 partners. And I think you lose a lot of that if you become a 10-person partner team or a 15-person partner team. And, the question that everybody that is privileged or fortunate enough to be asked the question as a venture investor is, do you want to be in the business of being a venture investor, or do you want to be an asset manager? And I think both answers are fine, actually. Like, I respect enormously and some of these organizations are asset managers and then have small venture pools, right? So Sequoia and Andreessen have parts of their portfolio that really are venture and then huge parts that are obviously not. That's not our journey. That's not who we want to be. I'm not sure that really works in consumer either. So I think we want to be the best consumer product investors that we can be, but we want to keep our head above the trees. If we see a company that's transforming our companies, I look at Shopify a lot in this, we would have benefited enormously from investing into Shopify 10 years ago. I think some of our brands were US customer, 2, 5, early US customers. And so we had a front row seat to that change. Shopify was allowing these businesses to focus on their business. It was allowing them to be more profitable. It was a unique solution that we should have seen would become a lot bigger. And so I also want to make sure that we're not so narrow in what we're excellent at that we can't be opportunistic around bold ideas that are on the fringe of that.
Thank you very much. It's
Thank you,
great
Angelo.
to have you here in Milano.
Thank you for having me.
Very inspiring. And enjoy the rest of the evening.
My pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks.